Who would like to speak?
I just want to say it's so beautiful and wonderful to listen to you
Thank you.
and funny. And so I just want to talk about I'm having some pretty intense dental surgery next week,
Ooh.
like really intense. I'm not usually afraid of that, but I've been thinking so much about just this,
Mm.
how to be with it. It's going to be like, intense for like 5 days afterwards. And I want to use the time well.
Yeah.
And so this is really helpful to have this talk tonight. And also it brings up other things I've been thinking about aging and the body
Yes.
and the inevitable whatevers that will
Yeah.
come and how to position oneself in relation to all of that in the moment, but also in the bigger picture, right? How to embrace all that will come with more intensity, right?
Right.
As life
It's,
progresses, if we're lucky enough to stay alive.
yeah.
If it's lucky or
Chances are, as you age, there'll be more and more things like your dental surgery. There'll be
exactly.
more and more things that the body needs that will involve discomfort and cutting and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, an aversion. And
Possibly, yes.
well, I mean, I feel that. I feel it from here. I feel it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel it. And I
So
don't
can
enjoy
can you
that
let that be just what you feel and
aversion.
open your heart to it? You're
Oh.
not alone, Jill, in feeling aversion to aging, sickness, and death. You're really not alone.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
want to.
Exactly. Right. So
Right.
bring presence to that without any agenda that I don't want to. You can't really blame that poor little voice that says I don't want
Mm-mm.
to. No.
Which brings up like that when you're talking, I'm thinking so much about internal family systems parts, right?
Right. Yep.
And I'm wondering too, are you thinking about that as you're talking, or is that like just
I could. I'm not necessarily doing IFSS at the moment, but it's kind of the same thing.
it is,
That
right?
sort of that realization that in any moment you can turn towards your experience just as it is with love and curiosity and openness and things may change as they need to from that purity of heart, just turning towards something.
So if you
So
were
in a
to,
way, I don't think of that what I'm teaching is so different from that as a that modality that's taught to clinicians.
right, it's not.
And that's partly why I loved IFS when I finally found it. It's like, oh, here's a clinical protocol that's actually based on what I truly believe, and what I've practiced, and in some ways has made it clearer what I was doing
Right.
because I learned that modality.
And so what you do is, for instance, aw, honey,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Oh, honey.
Or other ideas?
So we're talking about the dental surgery right here. Yeah.
Right. Or like the other thought I've had when I've been in this class is waking in the night with plans and worries. It's
Oh, that's a
similar.
good one too.
That
Yeah.
one is it feels similar, like that part of me that wants it to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just stop.
Exactly. And that's another human experience to meet the waking with anxieties.
Right?
I mean, I'll give a just just a brief thing about that. I think it's easier if you sit up, get out of bed, and be with yourself sitting up. Go
Mm.
down on the couch.
Mm.
We don't want to do that, but it's very hard to do it right there laying in bed. It's
Uh-huh.
so easy to blend with the fears
Right.
there. So you have to unblend from your fears. You have to
Right.
have, this sense of actually being present with something.
Right.
And it's the fullness of that that's really helpful. So sometimes you have to do something like actually get out of bed and go downstairs and turn on the light. And then there can be greater kind of ability to soothe yourself.
Mhm.
Going into the dental surgery, it's like, I mean, if you had a 6-year-old child who was going in for some sort of, dental procedure, how would you be with them? It's really the same thing, except you're doing it for yourself. Yeah. You're witnessing yourself. You're offering yourself a compassionate witness. And I think that's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, Jill, as things deteriorate. We're laughing, right? What else can we do? Uh, it's not pleasant. A lot of it's not pleasant. I mean, aging can be, lots of enjoyment, lots of pleasantness, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
physical body, not always. And, just that sense of softness, gentleness with yourself, and a gentle kind of witnessing presence. It's what we have. It's humbling, I think. Being sick in any form is really humbling. It's often just astonishing how uncomfortable, just downright uncomfortable the body can be. Whether it's a fever that it's dealing with, or it's, healing from a cut, or, like when people are doing things in your mouth, you still have to eat somehow. And so the things you do are going to be awkward and unpleasant. What would it be to have your heart be open in that or toward that? Doesn't mean shutting out the I don't want to, but it might mean unblending from it. I'll use that word, the IFS word. It might be needing to unblend from it a bit. Um,
When I remember when I was in labor and having done yoga, I used the word sensation for pain,
mhm.
and that was helpful. And I'm wondering what what is that? Like when you label something instead of pain.
It's a technique that allows you to not buy into everything that's associated with pain. The word pain. The word pain is a scary word, right? Unpleasant sensation. You kind of like slip that in there, and you don't necessarily have the tensing that comes up around the word pain. So if you remove the word pain, it can be a skillful way to not be so reactive and to actually be more curious as to, well, what does it actually feel like? And yes, it's unpleasant. Trying to think of other kinds of things that can be helpful around pain. I mean, the good old Vipassana method of like actually turning your attention towards what hurts with the question, like, what does it actually feel like? Can I actually find the pain? And in a funny way, each time the mind looks for it, it's kind of scurries away to a different location. It's always kind of like happening just outside of the laser of your attention. And so that can be a really helpful thing when there's unpleasant sensation, is to like go right into it and feel, if you can, feel really, really precisely what it is that you're feeling. And it's almost like, in a kind of neurological way, you go right past the point of pain into something that's very intense and not very pleasant, but doesn't quite register as pain. The word pain also describes the way that there are really two things going on. There's the unpleasant sensation and there's the resistance to it. And the two meld together, and we think they're just one thing, and we call them pain. But in fact, if you ever can kind of relax the resistance, you'll find that unpleasant sensation is quite tolerable. But as soon as you kind of tighten up against it, inside, it becomes magnified, you know. So you can play with that, maybe with dropping the word pain, just unpleasant sensation. Can you not resist? And there's a more or less to that, you know. And once in a while, and this is more something I'm able to do on a retreat and less in daily life, where there's absolutely no resistance, there really isn't suffering with the pain or with whatever's going on in the body. If there's really no resistance, if it's really zero, there's actually zero suffering. And the sense of suffering comes back with the resistance, with the sense of I and the sense of it's happening to me. And with that, the whole kind of thing comes back together. So this is like, I think, one of the simplest but deepest kinds of teachings of the Dharma, is that these experiences that we have are actually compound between just what's sensed and our response to it. And we actually don't have control over what's sensed. You know, I mean, obviously, if your leg hurts, move it. You know, maybe that'll help. There are certain ways that you can alleviate, you know, these sensations. But when it comes right down to it, there are certain times when you have a fever, you can't just will it away. You have, you know, an injury, you can't just will it away. It's there. And yet, it's the suffering of it is very much the resistance in the heart and in the mind to what's happening. And the only way to really know this for sure for yourself is to work with it. It sounds almost impossible, but if you actually work with it, you'll begin to see what I'm talking about, the way that suffering arises because of the resistance to what is, and not because of the thing itself. All right, anything more you want to say to this, Jill? Or is that kind of take care of it? Okay, good. Great question. Boy, we're all in for it, aren't we? This human birth, we're all kind of in for it, sooner or later. One thing, you know, this also occurs to me, that sometimes it's helped me as I go through life and things are difficult. I reflect on the fact that my parents went through this, you know? it started with the birth of my first child. I will say it's sort of like it was comforting to me to say billions of parents have been through this. It's in the billions. And then to reflect on, oh, this is what my parents did for me. It was a really comforting thought. It really soothed me in a certain way, because it would become, when things, as you know, just kind of really get out of hand and are impossible, it's easy to feel like you're the victim of something. It's easy to feel like you're, singularly oppressed. But those reflections were really helpful to me. And so as I age, in a similar way, I often reflect on my parents, and they went through a lot of stuff, I have to say. Their 70s was not pleasant for either of them. And there's something about just considering that makes it okay for me to go through that too. The fact that they went through it, and went through it with a certain grace, except when they didn't. They did the best they could. There's something about reflecting on that is helpful to me. And something about also just reflecting on, this is what human beings have to do. At this very moment, someone's dying somewhere. Someone's in a hospice somewhere. Someone's on a battlefield. Someone is, in an accident. At this very moment, someone is finding out what we all will find out, which is what it's like to have the body finally die. So that does something. It shifts something. Makes it less personal, less of a personal affliction. And it also makes it so that there is some place inside me that is like, I'm here in this life to experience what it's like to be human. And this is what it's like. This is what it's like. It has some really unpleasant aspects to it. And that's helpful. It's like something like what Buddhists call right view. It's a little bit the version of right view that works for me, which is, I'm here to experience a human life. I'm not here to try to just have it all work out the best possible way, but there is a part of me that's dedicated to that too, that's gonna try to keep myself healthy, exercise, and do some weight training, which I don't find pleasant. So there's a part of me that's dedicated to trying to make the best of it, to make it work out the best. That's what my ego's here for, is to keep control and try to make it all work out okay. But there's something beyond our egos that's here in this witnessing, loving presence. It's not just that we have to not try, but try as we will, we won't escape everything. We just don't. And it's really helpful if you begin to recognize and access this loving witnessing that's possible when you open your heart to whatever's present, even your aversion, which is kind of a part of human life. I do believe, and this is a belief because I haven't experienced it directly, that there is a level of awakening in which aversion is no longer arises to anything. It's part of the Theravada Buddhist teaching. And I do believe there are beings who have come to that. I'm not there. But short of that, there is aversion. And I believe the beings who don't have aversion anymore didn't get there by having a lot of aversion to their aversion. They had to in some way open their heart to the very aversion that was inside of them, as well as whatever unpleasantness the aversion was directed to. You have to open your heart. And I don't believe that, awakening in the final thing is anything other than kind of developing that skill of opening your heart to what is over and over. All right, so that was kind of a long answer to an important question, and we may circle back to it because it's just huge. But I'll open it up to anybody else who'd like to hop in there and say something, either on this topic or steer us to a different one. Mickey.
Yeah, hi. So pretty basic. What do you mean by opening the heart?
Yeah, what do I mean by opening the heart? Good question. Well, there are kind of qualities that show that your heart is open. One is what I'm calling turning towards something and being willing to experience it. So there's a kind of a willingness to experience something. And in the willingness to experience it, there is a witnessing presence. There's a bringing presence and actually engaging with something. A further kind of thing that can come along with this is curiosity. Curiosity is a sign of an open heart. Many people just associate curiosity with, the thinking mind. But it's actually an heart energy when you turn towards something and you really want to know, what is this like? What is this like? It has a heart quality to it. And then there are these qualities which I call gentleness, tenderness, love, compassion. Try not to use compassion too much because I think it can get a little rote. But this is what I'm pointing to, is that ability to, when something is when they're suffering, to move closer to it. This is the skill that we're here to develop as human beings, is that when something is suffering, you move closer to it. You open yourself to it. We don't do that very naturally, obviously. We tend to run screaming. Or we feel aversion. We can't run, we feel aversion. So that's the quality of the open heart. And so you might not be able to manage the whole thing in a way in any given moment. This kind of complete open heart and tenderness. So you start with the willingness to turn towards something. Let's say there's something in the news. There may need to be a little bit of a discernment, sort of like, well, what's kind right now to me? It might be not to turn toward this. And I will completely support that. But there might be just like the willingness to know. I'm willing to know what's going on. I'm willing to turn toward this suffering and witness it. And as you're witnessing it, there may be a kind of sense of shock and horror. to something. So it might not feel like an open heart in whatever we think of as an open heart. But already in the being willing to turn towards something, there is the quality of the heart in it. Already in the willingness to witness, there is a quality of the heart in it. Willingness to know. And then beyond that, it's the skill of like relaxing all those parts that are going, to whatever's happening. That's the further skill. And so you turn your heart toward them, to the places that are kind of like freaking out in various forms. All in the spirit of, I want to be here for this. So it occurs to me to maybe bring back that little phrase that I've used in the past, that you can drop into a situation. I love these little phrases, and this is one of my favorite. I really want to be here for this. This is really helpful to use when there are parts of you that don't want to be here for this, like a dental surgery, And there's something about saying it. It like goes down and it rouses the place inside of us where it actually is true. I really want to be here for this. And you might have to wait a little bit to find it, because what you first might get is, no, I don't want to be here for this. So, but just drop the phrase in, I really want to be here for this. And maybe you find there's some place that's actually willing to be present, willing to stay present. And there you are. That is an open heart. Glad you asked it. I use these words, and if you don't understand them, ask. I'll do my best to explain. It's kind of my job to F the ineffable at times. Put words to things that are very hard to put words to. So I just glanced and realized we're at the end of our time, aren't we? So that's it for tonight. And so your homework is to enjoy in any way you can during your meditation and beyond your meditation. So be well. Take care.